Hello and welcome to the Horoscope Vault. This episode is your week ahead forecast, sign by sign. So make sure to check out the reading for your sun sign and your rising sign too. If you don't know what your rising sign is, use the calculator in the show notes below to find out. The week ahead for Aries puts some pressure on your sense of home, your finances, and your identity. You may feel emotionally burdened by something. All the while, you're trying to hold it together outwardly. And this could mean that just family dynamics are weighing heavy, especially if you're the one carrying the load in silence. So ask yourself, is it time to set a boundary with family or to let something go that's been dragging you backwards? Then comes the Venus square Pluto, highlighting tension, and this is tension between your values and your social life. So the question is, are you lending money? Are you overextending yourself? Are you staying connected to people who are just not aligned with you socially anymore? Don't be afraid to say no, even if it makes things awkward. The Mercury Neptune square will cloud your perception. You might not be seeing your home. You might not be seeing yourself clearly. So don't rush any decisions. Don't sign anything home related. Pause just until things feel grounded. Emotional manipulation is also a risk, so stay centered in your truth. It's really the midweek Mercury sextile Venus bringing a window of peace. This is a good time to have practical money conversations to upgrade your space in a way that brings you more calmness. It's like a small change in the home goes a very long way. And then the Sagittarius Full Moon lights up your ninth house. It reminds you of the bigger picture. There might be some travel on the horizon, it might be education. Something is ready to break open. And you can use this full moon to make plans to commit to an educational course or to book the trip or to speak your truth. Mars square Uranus will rattle your creative or romantic world. So you might take a financial risk or you feel some tension in your dating life. Definitely go ahead and spend on joy. Spend money on joyful things, but spend wisely. The key is take bold and helpful, maybe even necessary moves, not reckless ones. And then with Jupiter squaring Saturn, you're being pushed to grow past what past versions of yourself would have settled for. Home, family, and identity are the big things all under review now. What part of your old self are you done carrying? And if you're outgrowing your space, if you know you're outgrowing your story or a role that you never chose, this week is asking you to face that. And a personal reading can help you pinpoint the journey of this home security based development for you, where the pressure seems to be building, and support you in responding with clarity. The link to explore the readings is in the show notes below. This week for Taurus, you could feel like you're swimming upstream, maybe mentally more than physically. With Mercury in your solar or natal third house squaring Saturn in your 12th, it suggests there's maybe unspoken words or unspoken thoughts or fears that could be kind of weighing on your mind. Or you might feel blocked, or you might feel stuck in your own head, or you might feel overwhelmed by something that is not being spoken. Don't ignore the mental clutter. Address it this week and clear it out. Venus squares Pluto. This is a challenge in how you're being seen at work. If you've been working on your image to meet expectations or clinging to the idea of understanding and controlling how other people view you, it might be time to release that grip. You're evolving. It doesn't matter if everyone's behind you. It's not your job to help people be where you're at. So just leave them and let them catch up. Mercury squares Neptune also. This can scramble your communication. Words may not land right. You may be too tired to say what you really mean. delay the big, heavy conversations for another time, and then double check anything that feels off. Your intuition might be very, very loud, especially at the opening of the week, so listen to it. Midweek, Mercury sextile Venus opens the door for ease. And this is the time to now say what you've been holding back, especially if it could lead to connection and peace. This is ideal for soft, honest communication, which could change everything. And the full moon in Sagittarius highlighting your solar or natal eighth house. This is shared resources, emotional baggage, and truth. Something needs to be addressed, released, or finally acknowledged, whether it's money or maybe a secret that you've kept inside. Letting it out might be freeing. Mars squares Uranus, it brings unexpected tension to your home or your self image. And you might be ready to make a dramatic change in your environment. You might be in the process of making the dramatic change. Or you finally claim your space, even if others don't like it. Finishing the week, Jupiter squares Saturn, your mental expansion may hit an invisible wall. If stress, sleep, or spiritual fatigue is kind of slowing your progress, then all you need to do is honor that. This week says clear space internally before you expect forward momentum externally, and is hinting at maybe not getting enough sleep. So prioritize your sleeping patterns, even if they are unusual. And if you really are stuck in your thoughts, if burnout keeps creeping in, or you feel like you're growing internally but not seeing anything externally, a reading can really help you connect with the storyline and the flow of your personal natal chart. The link to book and explore the readings is in the show notes below. This week for Gemini puts some pressure on your social connections and your ability to make sense of other people. Mercury is in your second house, squaring Saturn in your 11th house. It highlights tension between what you need in a social group or a social situation to feel secure, and also what your community expects from you. So maybe somewhere, somehow, you're being asked to contribute more than you can, or you feel like there's a situation where you have to prove your worth to belong. The Venus square Pluto challenge is hitting your hidden 12th and 9th houses. So power struggles are going to be around beliefs, identity, and even experiences of subconscious shame. So maybe there's a private tension, especially around intimacy or control. Maybe something behind the scenes is actually you hiding yourself. So ask yourself, are you hiding what you really believe or who you really are to keep the peace or receive, confirmation of belonging? Next up, Mercury squares Jupiter. This fogs your sense of priorities and your truth. So if you feel confused about money, direction, or social events and social dynamics, don't act just yet. This week isn't the best time to act. Wait until the fog clears, which is possibly from next week onwards. This is not the time to trust vague promises or to be part of overly idealistic plans. There is a small amount of respite middle of the week. Mercury sextiles Venus. It brings a soft opening to clarify what you want, even if it's hard to name. You kind of know the sensation of what you want. And gentle conversations, especially with yourself, and this is the week to talk to yourself all the time, that may help you reconnect with what really matters underneath all of the external noise. The full moon in Sagittarius is in your opposite sign, your opposite house. This is to do with partnerships. So, a dynamic with someone close to you, whether romantic, business, or just something that has a long standing tension, reaches a peak. And within this, you need to express, release, or rebalance based on the tension in this one on one connection. Then comes Mars square Uranus. It ignites mental pressure, scattered thoughts, and hidden frustrations. This is the idea that you might actually blurt something out that you didn't mean at all. Or maybe you blurt it out and you do mean it, maybe just didn't mean the delivery. Be cautious of mental overload and watch out for impulsive words that come from a very deep repressed place. And finally, Jupiter squares Saturn. It ties it all together at the end of the week. You're craving personal expansion and financial or self-worth growth, or both of those. But the networks and obligations around you don't seem to be able to offer you that. Growth is possible for you, yes, but it might require restructuring your long-term vision, adjusting your local environment, and letting go of old group-based fears. And if you've been trying to figure out where your values clash with others and how and why that's impacting your money and how to stop shrinking or spending energy and other things trying to fit in, then a personal reading can show where this tension is building and what to do with it for the next few months. The link to check out the readings is in the show notes below. This week for Cancer asks you to take a look in the mirror, professionally, emotionally, and personally. Mercury is in your solar or natal first house, squaring off Saturn in your 10th house. It says that you may feel held back by career pressure, by expectations, by authority figures. And you want to move forward, but there's a weight of responsibility or maybe even perfectionism that's dragging at your feet. And then the Venus square Pluto challenge is about the balance between your friendships and deeper emotional entanglements. Are you being pulled between loyalty to others versus loyalty to yourself? Are there some hidden power struggles, especially in a group dynamic or a romantic dynamic, that's pushing you to kind of choose? This is make a choice between kind of energy. And the more loyal you are to yourself, putting yourself first instead of appearing and showing up as what someone else wants you to be, the better it is for everyone in the long run anyway. Mercury squares Neptune, it blurs your perspective. Your entire next several years are going to go between confusion and clarity with your career path. So this week is a blurred confusion week, and it might feel like something you're saying isn't being heard, or you're just doubting your own authority. If you're facing confusion in your career path or your identity, don't force a decision. Clarity is coming, but just not yet. Midweek, the Mercury sextile Venus softens things. So, a heart to heart with a friend, simply naming what you need, can bring you maximum relief. You don't have to carry the weight of your life situations alone. This gives the vibe of maybe sharing something. You know, a problem shared is a problem halved. With a good friend who you know you can offload to, and it's not a problem or a burden to them. The full moon in Sagittarius lands in your solar or natal 6th house. This is work, health, and your routines. Something in your day to day life is peaking. Maybe you've pushed through and now you see what needs to shift. Use this full moon to kind of commit to a healthier rhythm or to release a responsibility, a duty that you're doing on repeat that's no longer sustainable or necessary. Then with Mars square Uranus, it shakes up your income, your values, or your security base. This is likely triggered by social connections and or unexpected expenses or income. Watch out for impulsive spending, but also if there's an amount of money you need, then taking the right action, you may unexpectedly reach that number. Lastly, Jupiter square Saturn challenges your sense of self against the weight of long-term career expectations. You are growing, but part of that means outgrowing roles and outgrowing masks that no longer fit. And you don't have to hold up the old version of yourself just because others expect you to. Mastering this square means checking back from August last year and December last year to see what was going on in the run up to perhaps one or more career changes. And if you are feeling the pressure to level up while still clinging to an outdated identity, then this week is your sign to start making a shift. A personal reading can pinpoint where the tension is coming from and what you're meant to do, the tools you have at your disposal to grow into your next chapter. These are all visible in your natal chart. Use the link in the show notes below to explore readings. This week for Leo, there is pressure building between your inner world and your outer expectations, with Mercury in your solar or natal 12th house squaring to Saturn in the 9th. So you may feel limited in expressing your thoughts or maybe fears or maybe beliefs to do with travel, politics, education, and future plans. This can leave you feeling mentally discouraged, especially around plans for growth, travel, or education, and you may be questioning whether you're on the right path. You may be questioning a recent commitment that you made, or feeling the pressure to hold something together when you're secretly really not that into it. Venus squares Pluto, it brings power dynamics to the forefront, likely involving your work, your health, or how much effort you're pouring into something without getting back what you need. So if you've been overgiving, overworking, or tolerating manipulative dynamics in the daily grind, now is the time to question why. And as you do, Mercury squares Neptune, clouding judgment, especially emotionally. You might misread someone's intentions, or you lose yourself in trying to save or fix something or someone. Don't commit to anything major this week unless you feel grounded in the facts and you can really trust your gut. There is ease as the week moves through. Mercury sextile Venus midweek helps you make peace with a very quiet truth. It's a great time for private journaling, emotional processing, small acts of self forgiveness, especially if you've been hard on yourself. This is your moment in the week to soften. The Sagittarius Full Moon, also on Wednesday, might see you reaching a turning point in a romantic endeavor or a creative endeavor. Something is ready to be released in either of those so that you can enjoy life again on your terms. Mars squares Uranus, bringing sudden shakeups in your career direction. Expect surprises, maybe an opportunity or a disruption, or a realization that changes your trajectory entirely. And try not to react impulsively, but also don't cling to the old and don't cling to control either. Jupiter squares Saturn, capping the week with a reminder that your desire for freedom and emotional expansion will always need structure to support it. As you're outgrowing old rules, in order to build something lasting, you will need new rules. So if you've been torn between staying quiet or breaking free, if you've been replacing responsibilities with more fitting responsibilities and you're still not sure about your duties moving forward, and these are duties to yourself and duties to your future, a reading can help you make sense of what this inner pressure is asking you to do next. Also, looking at the dates ahead of how that may show up. The link is in the show notes below to explore readings. This week for Virgo is full of moments that test how you think, how you share your voice, and what kind of future you're building. Mercury in your solar or natal 11th house squares Saturn in your 8th house, bringing up tension between your long term goals and deeper fears, or just bringing some emotional baggage. You might feel like you're holding back from saying what you really want, or that your dreams are clashing with a financial or an emotional entanglement. Venus squares Pluto, stirring up some relationship tension too. Are you trying to control the outcome, or is someone else trying to control the outcome or steer your emotional experience? If so, this energy can feel very intense in love or friendship. So look closely at what themes are surfacing in love or in a friendship connection, and whether it's rooted in trust or control. Mercury squares Neptune, confusing everybody. For you, this confuses communication and partnerships. It confuses group dynamics. So, somewhere where you are a part of a group, someone is not being fully honest. Or maybe you are struggling to put words to a gut feeling. There's a gut feeling and you don't know exactly what it's telling you. So it's best to not sign any contracts, to not jump into any serious decisions right now. Let the fog clear first, which it will do by next week. Middle of this week, Mercury sextiles Venus, bringing clarity through conversation. If there's been a misunderstanding with a friend or partner, then this is your opening to smooth that out. Connection can come back, and it can come back healthily and well when you lead with curiosity and honesty. The Sagittarius Full Moon lights up your fourth house of home, family, and your inner foundation. Something rooted in the past might reach a turning point. You might realize that you're ready to move, to release a family pattern, or to build a new version of home. So, this is more work in the home, and you're doing this all for yourself. So, make sure you follow your own vision when it comes to moving or releasing family patterns or changing your inner home. Mars squares Uranus. This could stir up some impulsive energy around travel plans or just beliefs. There might be the sudden urge to break away from something rigid, but try not to kind of toss out the whole plan of something without checking the details. The deeper issue is really freedom versus fear, and something you've locked onto or locked into how something should be done might not be the correct way, but it's also not completely incorrect. This is cherry picking the necessary parts of a plan and ditching everything that doesn't make sense. Jupiter squares Saturn, rounding out the week with a test. It's testing if your long term goals are built on a solid emotional and financial base. And if not, then this is your chance to adjust. So perhaps those plans need reevaluation from an emotional and or financial point. And if you've been feeling blocked from expressing what you really want, if you're caught between responsibility and possibility, this week offers lots of clues, and a personal reading can help you name the tension and work with it instead of against it. Check out the reading options and click the link in the show notes below. For Libra, this week puts pressure on your public image and your partnerships, both affecting your inner emotional world. Mercury is in your solar or natal 10th house, squaring Saturn in your 7th, and this highlights tension between your career and your closest relationships. So you may feel torn between professional obligations and the need to show up more for somebody else, or vice versa. Either way, the weight of responsibility is real, and balance is hard to find this week. Venus squares Pluto. This brings up deeper issues, maybe in the relationship, involving power, intimacy, and self expression. A romantic or a creative connection may start to feel intense, maybe even somewhat manipulative. It's worth asking yourself, are you giving up emotional truth just to keep things light? Or are you clinging to control because vulnerability feels too risky? Mercury square Neptune muddies your professional communication, especially with clients, especially with collaborators and authority figures. So if the terms of an agreement feel unclear, then don't commit to anything unless you're absolutely sure of what you're agreeing to. Thankfully, midweek, Mercury sextile Venus brings a moment of clarity, especially around money, shared resources, and emotional investment. So a real conversation had midweek can help bridge the gap between professional goals and emotional need. The Sagittarius Full Moon lands in your chart sector of communication, learning, and local environment. So a conversation, a decision, a mindset is reaching a turning point, something you've been mulling over. And now you want to say, share, or release this. Mars squares Uranus. It brings sudden intensity to your social life and or your financial ties. So a group situation, a friendship, a shared resource may erupt with tension. Stay calm, but don't ignore the deeper truth that's surfacing. Finally, Jupiter squares Saturn. This is the real backbone of the week, and it asks you, can you grow in your career without sacrificing your relationship needs? Or are you clinging to an outdated partnership that's blocking your bigger purpose? If you're feeling the pressure, or you're being everything to everyone else, or your public and private selves are fighting, one is fighting for dominance, then a personal reading can help you spot where this tug of war is showing up in your chart and how to resolve it best. The links to book are in the show notes below. For Scorpio this week tests the balance between For Scorpio this week tests the balance of your responsibilities. It challenges your vision of the future, where you might be craving expansion and learning and travel or some kind of big leap, but daily stress, work, or your health feels like it's blocking the runway. Don't overextend, but instead pause and ask what is realistic within your capabilities and capacities right now. And then pursue rest, relaxation, learning, or travel in that way. Venus squares Pluto. It stirs tension between your close relationships and home life. A question to ask yourself: are family patterns affecting how you relate to others? Or are you trying to keep the peace outwardly because you feel like something deeper is brewing underneath? The power play right now this week for you is so real. And it's best to not just pretend that it's not, and go ahead and try and own it. Mercury squares Neptune. This clouds clarity for you and everybody else, but for you, this might be misjudging someone else's intentions. So don't make any big decisions around contracts and commitments or words that other people share with you unless it feels 100% solid. And if not, then wait one more week. The good news is that midweek, Mercury sextiles Venus, bringing a soft spot, a heart to heart with a partner, an honest conversation with somebody who sees you clearly. And this helps you sort through all the clutter of real life. This experience of a conversation offers a shared perspective that helps you ease pressure in your life somehow. The Sagittarius Full Moon lights up your second house. Money, worth, and stability are the themes. So something financial or something self-esteem related is coming to a head. This is a chance to release what's been draining your confidence, or to make a decision that reinforces it. And then Mars squares Uranus. It shakes up your career and relationship axis. A professional decision could impact your partnership, or vice versa. A partnership decision could impact your professional life. Just expect sudden developments or bold moves from others, and make sure that you stay flexible, not reactive. Jupiter squares Saturn, bringing in the bigger picture at the end of the week. Your world view is what's being challenged by limitations in your daily life or limitations in your habits. And the key is in shifting your routines so that they support the future that you're building, not the past that you're maintaining. So if you find yourself doing things the way you've always done things, then it's time to change that. How you eat, how you sleep, how you take care of yourself, health, wellness, diet, workout, all of these things need a shake-up. They need a restructure, a level up even, in order to really get you where you're going on this next level. And if you know that your obligations and your responsibilities and your habits are clashing, and you know that it feels like you're meant for more, but you can't see how to get over a hurdle or how to progress through the next step, a personal reading can definitely show the exact area where pressure is rising and the kind of habits that you can change, the tools that might support you in moving through your next step. The link to take a look at those readings is in the show notes below. This week for Sagittarius asks you to dig into the emotional layers underneath your actions. So Mercury is in your solar or natal 8th house, squaring to Saturn in your solar or natal 5th house. It reveals friction between your emotional depth and your desire for joy or recognition. So you're wrestling with issues to do with trust, intimacy, and whether to let your guard down. It's like you want fun, you want to enjoy things, but it has to feel safe for it to actually be fun. Venus squares Pluto, turning up the intensity in your day to day interactions, and some power matters could emerge in a work setting or with routines. Are you being subtly controlled by someone or something? Or are you the one doing the controlling? Either way, a shift in boundaries is long overdue. Mercury square Neptune blurs emotions, and it's easy to misread a vibe, to project a fear, to feel emotionally overwhelmed. Don't make assumptions. Pause before reacting, especially in private conversations or very vulnerable, sensitive topics. Midweek, the Mercury Venus sextile offers a healing moment. So, a thoughtful message or a kind word or a small act of care smooths over the sharp edges of what's happening in your life. This is a window for you to reconnect with someone or to reconnect with your own sense of peace or your own space. And that's highlighted extra by the Sagittarius Full Moon. It's in your sign. This is your personal reset. So, something about your identity, your personal truth, or your presence in the world is reaching a turning point. And now it's right for you to let go of the roles or expectations that you've outgrown, especially in family. Mars squares Uranus. It might jolt your beliefs, it might jolt your health, maybe even shake up your routine. Be flexible. This is suggesting that fast moving energy is moving through your life and could reroute your day or your plans. And this is not something for you to push through blindly. Your body and mind need both freedom and structure. So, as the changes in your external world show you what things need to be restructured, especially in your diet, especially in your health and wellness habits. While everything else is confusing and unsure, that is one thing that you can sit down, pen to paper, or notes in your phone and lay out a 1 month health and wellness plan, from meal prepping to setting definitive bedtimes. And finally, the Jupiter square Saturn aspect reminds you that your emotional and financial growth depends on whether you're willing to slow down enough to heal. It's about avoiding. So you have to avoid avoiding things and instead do the deeper work. When you do the deeper work now, it pays off later. And if you are feeling pulled between living freely and facing what's been hidden, if there are some unconscious patterns on repeat and now you're so hyper aware of them and aware of their need to change, maybe you don't know how, maybe you do know how, but need extra support in the tools that your natal chart show at your disposal. A chart reading can help you navigate this tension with clarity that you don't have to come up with yourself. The link to explore readings is in the show notes below. This week for Capricorn highlights tension in your closest relationships and your private emotional life, with Mercury in your solar or natal 7th house squaring Saturn in your 4th solar or natal house. It brings a pressure point. This is between your desire for clarity with others and this almost private emotional weight that you may not fully understand yet. You're trying to connect and you're trying to connect the dots, but there's something from the past that's getting in the way of connecting. Venus squares Pluto, it adds intensity to love, it adds intensity to self worth. Are you trying to control a relationship, or is someone else doing that subtly? This aspect is great for uncovering hidden motives or buried emotional baggage, especially in romantic connections, or if not romantic, creative projects. Mercury squares Neptune, it clouds conversations. So miscommunication is possible, especially with loved ones. You may say something with one kind of intention and you just have it completely misunderstood. This isn't the time for emotional leaps or trusting that people will get what you're saying. This is a week for you to clarify everything and to clarify it twice. Thankfully, the midweek Mercury Venus sextile offers a moment of ease, an honest exchange, a quiet expression of affection, even can bring you some comfort. And this might be a creative or romantic breakthrough that's possible, but only if you let down your guard and only if you let yourself say what you really feel and you say it gently. The full moon in Sagittarius lands in your solar or natal 12th house. This brings a wave of emotional release. So, any hidden fears or some long held grief or a long held grudge or spiritual exhaustion could peak. And this is a moment to rest, reflect, and clear out what's been buried. And you, of all signs, might have the most difficult time sleeping with this particular full moon. The Mars Uranus square jolts in your creative life or your romantic world, or maybe your role as a parent, if that's relevant. This is to say, expect the unexpected in those areas and don't resist it. Sometimes freedom shows up looking like chaos at first. And finally, Jupiter squares your ruling planet, Saturn, challenging you to grow within your relationships. But you may need to stop doing all the emotional heavy lifting. You are allowed to ask for change from others if it's what helps you and supports you. And you are allowed to just go ahead and change yourself. And if you're really feeling that stretched, thin feeling between showing up for others and holding your own world together, then a personal chart reading can really help you figure out what structures need to shift so that you can breathe more again. The booking link and to explore readings is in the show notes below. This week for Aquarius, your focus is towards health, home, and communication, but not without some tension. Mercury in your solar or natal 6th house, which has a lot to do with nervous energy, with the habits and routines and commitments that you make. This is your daily work life. This is the way you take care of yourself. May bring a mental block, or maybe it brings overwhelm. Maybe things are overwhelming in your daily life. Maybe it's too many tasks. Maybe it's unclear directions. Or it's just that you don't really have the words for what's going on. Watch your tone and watch your thoughts, especially because self-criticism can get quite loud this week. Venus squares Pluto, intensifying your inner world. So hidden emotions tied to family or your past could surface. And you might feel like you're carrying the emotional weight for everyone else, or you're trying to hide your feelings just to keep things stable. That's your decision on which way you lean. Just don't ignore what wants to come up. Mercury squares Neptune, adding fog for you and everyone else. But for you, this is to do with a misread conversation. Or maybe you forget something really important. Or maybe you feel unsure about a decision in work or wellness. And there's really no need to overthink this or make assumptions. If something feels unclear, that's because it is. If you don't have to make a decision about work or wellness or the weird details that are difficult to understand in a conversation, or to try and kind of recoup after forgetting that important something, then don't press it, just leave it to next week. Luckily, Mercury sextiles Venus midweek, bringing a healing moment. So, a conversation at home or a small act of kindness, it resets your rhythm and it's your green light to bring ease into your space and your routines. The Sagittarius full moon activates your solar or natal 11th house. This is the area of friendships, community, and future goals. So something comes to light in your social life, or you feel the urge to detach from a group or a corporation or something that just no longer fits your vision. This is the release and reset. And it's in a friendship or a social big group situation. Mars squares Uranus, it shakes up your home and relationship zones. You feel pulled in two directions. And maybe a sudden urge for independence is going up against tension in your living situation. Don't lash out, but don't suppress it either. Movement is all that's needed. So, movement means changing the space within which you have a conversation or just actually getting physically active. If you've been meaning to exercise and not quite got there yet, or if you are starting to regularly exercise, this is the time to amp that up. Physical movement will help you handle the unexpected things happening to your life this week. And finally, Jupiter squares Saturn towards the end of the week, asking, do you want to expand your work, your health, and your routines? Because maybe it's your mindset towards your habits that's the very thing getting in your way. This is the week to upgrade the systems that support you, to automate where you can, and to simplify your life in order to grow. Because if your life feels crammed, then this is an indicator that something needs clearing out. And it might very well be truly crammed with tasks, but somewhat disconnected from purpose. And this week is starting to reveal why. A personal chart reading can help you restructure for clarity and calm. And the link to check out those readings is in the show notes below. This week for Pisces asks you to get very serious about your creativity, your voice, and your personal values. Mercury makes its square to Saturn, challenging you to back your ideas with structure or to face the honest limits of your resources. So you might be bursting with inspiration, but you might be doubtful whether that inspiration is worth anything. Don't let imposter syndrome weigh you down or keep you silent. Venus squares Pluto, it activates deep, possibly hidden things going on in your communications or friendships. Are you trying to protect someone? Or is there something you're keeping under wraps? If so, truth is surfacing, and with it, the need for boundaries in what you say, boundaries in how much you give, or boundaries in who you're trying to save become more necessary. Mercury squares Neptune, which is your ruling planet. Neptune rules Pisces. This makes self expression foggy or over idealistic. So, this could look like doubting yourself. This could look like feeling misunderstood. And it's okay to not have the perfect words for everything right now. Let clarity come to you whenever it comes, which is possibly next week, instead of overly trying to force it this week. Midweek brings relief. Mercury sextiles Venus. This helps you translate your ideas into something that is well received, whether that's through writing things out before you have a conversation, whether it's having a conversation that you know needs to be had in the first place, or some kind of creative expression that lets you make things clear in your own mind before you share. Then it just so happens that what you share this week can land softly and meaningfully, but only if it comes from the heart. The Sagittarius Full Moon lights up your 10th house, which is career, visibility, and reputation. So something you've been building is now peaking, or just simply a goal may shift. You're being asked, what do you really want to be known for? And what do you really want your future to look like? Because the old versions of that are probably gone for now, and you may have to create a new vision for the future. Then Mars square to Uranus jolts your work and communication zones. Expect a sudden shift in plans or a sharp exchange. Don't take the bait, but do notice what needs to change. Sometimes there are patterns that are meant to be broken. And lastly, Jupiter squares Saturn at the end of the week, reminding you that real creative growth and progress and abundance actually takes and comes from discipline. So you're expanding into new talents and new joy, but it will not last unless you root these things in real self-worth and practical support. So if you have been stuck, and you know you're stuck between dreaming big and playing small, a chart reading looking at your natal chart can show what is exactly keeping you in limbo, and then how to unlock real momentum. Check out the readings menu in the show notes below for the booking link.